The ballroom glittered like a jewelry box someone had shaken too hard. Chandeliers dripped crystal tears over tables draped in white linen, each centerpiece a small fortune of orchids and roses that would be garbage by tomorrow morning. I stood near the bar, nursing a whiskey that cost more than my lunch, watching Diane work the room like she owned it. Maybe she did in a way. Senior Vice President of Strategy had a nice ring to it, the kind that opened doors and closed mouths. She'd insisted I come tonight. Not asked. Insisted. It's important, Michael. The whole executive team will be there. Translation. I needed to play the supportive husband, smile for the cameras, prove she had a stable home life to complement her meteoric career. I'd worn the navy suit she liked, the one that made me look presentable at her company functions. The tie was strangling me slowly, but I kept my face neutral. Diane laughed at something her colleague said, throwing her head back just enough to show the elegant line of her throat. She'd worn the black dress tonight, the one that hugged every curve and made men forget their own names. I'd watched her zip it up earlier, standing in our bedroom that felt more like a hotel suite lately. Separate, but equal. She on her side, me on mine. Michael, right? A hand appeared in front of me, attached to a man with 2 white teeth and hair that cost more to maintain than my car payment. I shook it. That's me. Brad Hutchinson, Senior Director of Operations. Diane's mentioned you. I doubt that, I thought, but smiled. All good things, I hope. Of course. He flagged down the bartender, ordered something complicated involving elderflower and Prosecco. You work in tech, she said. Middle management. Nothing as glamorous as this. I gestured at the ballroom, the orchestra playing something classical and expensive in the corner, the ice sculptures already starting to sweat under the lights. Honest work. Brad's tone suggested he'd never done a day of honest work in his life. Diane's a real asset to the company, sharp as they come. She is that. We stood in uncomfortable silence for a moment. Brad's drink arrived, looking like something a 12-year-old would order at a wedding. He took a sip, nodded appreciatively, like he understood the subtle notes of whatever the hell was in there. I should probably find my table, I said. Table 7, you're with us. Brad grinned. Should be a fun night. Fun wasn't the word I'd use. Mandatory, tedious, slowly draining my will to live, but not fun. Table 7 sat near the front, close enough to the stage that we'd have to applaud every boring speech with enthusiasm. Diane was already there, chatting with a woman in a red dress who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. 2 other men sat across from them, ties loosened, already deep into the wine. Michael. Diane's smile didn't reach her eyes. You remember Jennifer from HR? Of course. I didn't, but Jennifer seemed happy enough with the lie. And this is James Crawford, VP of Corporate Development at Halcyon Industries. James stood, extending his hand. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of build that suggested a personal trainer and a meal plan delivered daily. His suit was bespoke, probably Italian, and his watch could have paid my mortgage for 3 months. His handshake was firm, aggressive even, like he was establishing dominance at a business meeting. Pleasure, he said, voice smooth as aged bourbon. Diane speaks highly of you. Another lie, but I was collecting them tonight like stamps. Likewise. We sat. I ended up between Diane and Brad, with James directly across from me. The other 2 men introduced themselves, something financial, something corporate, and immediately went back to their conversation about market trends and quarterly projections. Diane leaned toward Jennifer, discussing some workplace initiative I didn't care about. That left James studying me with eyes that were a little too calculating. So, Michael, Diane tells me you're in tech management? That's right. Which sector? Cloud infrastructure, data centers mostly. Making sure the servers keep running so people can watch cat videos and argue on social media. James laughed, but it sounded rehearsed. Important work in its own way. Digital backbone and all that. Someone's got to keep the lights on. The waiters descended like a choreographed flock of penguins, placing salads in front of us with military precision. I picked up my fork, realized I wasn't hungry, set it back down. Diane's knee bumped mine under the table. Accidental or warning, I couldn't tell anymore. "How do you two know each other?" I asked, gesturing between Diane and James with my wine glass. "Professional circles," Diane said smoothly. "We've crossed paths at conferences, industry events. James's company partners with ours on several initiatives. Diane's been invaluable on the Nexus project," James added. "Brilliant strategist. I keep trying to poach her, but she's loyal to a fault." "That's my wife." I took a long drink of wine. Loyal to a fault. Something flickered in Diane's expression, gone before I could name it. James didn't seem to notice, launching into a story about some negotiation in Singapore that required him to drink snake wine with potential clients. Everyone laughed at the right moments. I watched Diane's face, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when James spoke, the subtle lean of her body toward him when he made a joke. You learn to read people when you've been married for 8 years. The small shifts in posture, the unconscious mirroring, the lingering looks that last half a second too long. Diane thought she was being discreet. Maybe she was, to everyone else. But I'd studied her like a textbook, memorized every chapter, and I knew when something was off. The salad plates vanished, replaced by some kind of chicken dish with a French name I couldn't pronounce. James was in full storytelling mode now, entertaining the table with anecdotes about business trips and corporate politics. "You know what the problem with most relationships is?" James said, swirling his wine like he was about to deliver profound wisdom. "People settle. They get comfortable. They stop trying." "Is that right?" I kept my voice level. "Absolutely. Look at Diane here." He gestured at my wife with his glass. "Brilliant. Driven, ambitious. She needs someone who can match that energy, someone who understands the demands of a high-powered career." "Someone like you?" The words came out before I could stop them. James's smile didn't waver. "Someone who gets it, at least. No offense, Michael, but the 9-to-5 crowd doesn't always understand what it takes to operate at this level." "None taken." I felt Diane's hand touch my arm under the table, a silent plea for restraint. I ignored it, though I'd argue that loyalty and dedication matter more than understanding office politics. Loyalty. James tasted the word like it was sour. Sure, but what's loyalty without passion? Without that fire that drives you to be better, do better, want better? The table had gone quiet. Even Brad seemed to sense the tension crackling in the air like static electricity before a storm. "I think Michael has plenty of passion," Diane said, her voice tight. "He's being modest." "I'm sure." James leaned back in his chair, completely at ease. "I just think that sometimes people need to be reminded they deserve more. Take Diane, for instance. After all the hours she puts in, the deals she closes, the success she brings to her company." He paused, let his eyes slide to my wife with something that made my jaw clench. "She deserves a real man after hours, someone who can keep up with her." The table erupted in laughter. Brad nearly choked on his wine. Jennifer covered her mouth but couldn't hide her grin. The 2 finance guys slapped the table. And Diane smiled. Not a big smile, not one of those full-faced expressions of delight. Just a small, knowing curve of her lips that said she'd heard this before, that maybe she'd even agreed with it in private. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just a crystalline clarity, the kind that comes when all the pieces you've been ignoring suddenly arrange themselves into an undeniable picture. James was still laughing, pleased with himself. "Just saying, a woman like that needs someone who can appreciate her fully, in every way." More laughter. Diane's smile widened a fraction. I set down my fork carefully, picked up my wine, and took a slow sip. Let the moment stretch. Let them think I was too dense to get the joke, too passive to react. When I spoke, my voice was calm, almost pleasant. That's an interesting perspective, James. Tell me, how long have you been VP at Halcyon Industries? The shift in topic caught him off guard. 3 years this November. Why? Just curious about your background. You seem very confident about relationships and what people deserve. Wondered if that confidence came from personal experience or professional success. Both, I'd say. He recovered quickly, that smile back in place. I've done well for myself. Built a good life, good career. I know what I want, and I go after it. Even if it belongs to someone else? The table went very quiet now. Diane's hand tightened on my arm, nails digging through the fabric of my jacket. James's smile turned sharp. I'm not sure I follow. Just making conversation. I pulled out my phone, set it on the table. Speaking of going after what you want, I'm always interested in hearing about people's career philosophies. Mind if I record this? I like to collect insights from successful people. Michael, Diane started, but I was already opening the voice recorder app. Actually, I'd rather not, James said, his voice cooling several degrees. Of course. I put the phone away, met his eyes across the table. Privacy is important, especially when discussing personal matters. We stared at each other for a long moment, and I watched the calculation happen behind his eyes. He wasn't sure if I knew something or if I was just being difficult. Good. Let him wonder. The CEO took the stage, tapping the microphone. Speeches would start soon, which meant I'd have to sit here and clap and pretend everything was fine. Pretend I hadn't just heard another man imply my wife needed better than me while she smiled. Pretend the woman I'd married was still the woman sitting next to me. As the CEO droned on about quarterly earnings and market expansion, I let my mind work. 8 years of marriage, 2 years of dating before that. I'd supported Diane through her MBA, through her early career struggles, through every promotion and setback. I'd been the stable presence while she chased her ambitions. And somewhere along the way, she'd decided stable wasn't enough. That I wasn't enough. James leaned forward during the applause, catching my eye. No hard feelings about the joke, right? Just having fun. Of course. I smiled back, the kind of smile that didn't touch anything real inside me. Just having fun. But I'd seen the way he looked at my wife. The familiarity in that glance, the casual intimacy of someone who knew her in ways I wasn't supposed to notice. And I'd seen Diane's response. Not shock, not offense, but that small smile of acknowledgement. The speeches continued. I applauded when appropriate, laughed at the CEO's jokes, played my part. But my mind was elsewhere, cataloging details, filing away observations. The way James's hand had lingered on Diane's shoulder when he'd arrived at the table. The inside joke they'd shared about the Singapore trip. The fact that she'd never mentioned him before tonight, not once, despite apparently knowing him well enough to be invaluable to his projects. By the time dinner ended and people started mingling again, I'd made several decisions. The first was that I wasn't going to confront Diane tonight. Not here, not in front of her colleagues and her lover, because that's what James was, I was certain now. No, this required planning, strategy, the kind of careful, methodical approach I used at work when solving complex technical problems. The second decision was that I wasn't going to be the understanding husband who asked for couples therapy and tried to work things out. That ship had sailed the moment Diane smiled at James's joke. Maybe it had sailed months ago, when she'd started working late and coming home smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't mine. The third decision was the one that settled like iron in my spine. If Diane wanted to play games, I'd play, but by my rules, with my timeline, and toward my endgame. I excused myself to the bathroom, walking through the glittering crowd of executives and their spouses. In the marble bathroom with its gold fixtures and ambient lighting, I stared at myself in the mirror. Same face I'd always had. Angular jaw, dark hair starting to gray at the temples, eyes that Diane used to say were kind. I didn't look like a man whose world was crumbling. I looked like a middle manager at a tech company who'd drunk too much wine at his wife's corporate gala. Perfect. I pulled out my phone, opened my contacts. Rebecca's name was near the top. We'd gone to college together, stayed friends through the years despite her job making most people uncomfortable. Private investigator wasn't the kind of career that led to a lot of dinner party invitations, but it was exactly what I needed now. I sent her a text. Need your professional services. Can we talk tomorrow? Her response came back in seconds. Knew this day would come. Call me in the morning. I stared at the message. Had everyone known except me? Had I been the only one blind to what was happening? When I returned to the ballroom, Diane was dancing with James. Not slow dancing. The orchestra was playing something upbeat, something that allowed for plausible deniability. But I saw the way he pulled her close during a turn, the way she laughed and didn't step back. Around them, other couples danced, oblivious to the small drama playing out. Brad appeared at my elbow. Hell of a party, huh? Something like that. James is a character. Successful, though. Built his division from nothing, basically. The board loves him. I'm sure they do. Between you and me, Brad lowered his voice, leaning in like we were conspirators. He's got a reputation. Ladies' man, if you know what I mean. Goes through assistants like tissues. But he delivers results, so nobody says anything. Interesting. I kept my eyes on the dance floor. Diane mentioned they worked together on projects. Oh yeah, the Nexus thing. They've been practically joined at the hip for 6 months now. Late meetings, strategy sessions, couple of trips to the West Coast. Your wife's brilliant, though. Really turned that project around. 6 months. I'd been watching my marriage dissolve for 6 months and convinced myself it was just stress, just work, just Diane being ambitious. I'd been an idiot. Michael? Diane appeared, slightly breathless from dancing. We should probably leave soon. You have that early meeting tomorrow. I didn't have an early meeting, but I nodded. Good idea. James had followed her over, his tie fully loosened now, jacket discarded somewhere. Leaving already? Night's just getting started. Some of us have real work tomorrow, I said pleasantly. His smile sharpened. Right. Those servers won't monitor themselves. Exactly. I took Diane's hand, felt her stiffen at my touch. Thanks for a memorable evening, James. Really opened my eyes to a lot of things. We said our goodbyes, collected Diane's coat, made our way to the parking garage. The silence between us was thick, heavy with things unsaid. I'd parked on level 3, away from the valet service because I didn't like strangers driving my car. The concrete expanse echoed with our footsteps, Diane's heels clicking a sharp rhythm that matched my heartbeat. You were rude to James, she said when we reached the car. Was I? I unlocked the doors, held hers open. I thought I was remarkably polite considering. Considering what? Considering he spent the evening insulting me while you smiled. Diane slid into the passenger seat, arranging her dress carefully. He was joking, Michael. Don't be so sensitive. I closed her door, walked around to the driver's side, got in, started the engine. Let the silence build while I navigated out of the parking garage and onto the city streets. The buildings slid past, all lit windows and dark alleys, the urban landscape I'd lived in for 15 years suddenly feeling foreign. You don't get it, Diane said finally. That's how these events work. People joke, they network, they build relationships. It's business. Is that what you're building with James? Business relationships? Don't be ridiculous. How long has it been going on? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Diane stared straight ahead, her profile sharp in the passing streetlights. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. You're being paranoid. Am I? Because from where I sat tonight, it looked like your work friend knows you pretty damn well. Intimately, even. Diane laughed, but it sounded forced. You're imagining things. James is a colleague, that's all. Who jokes about you deserving a real man? Who looks at you like he owns you? Who you've been working late with for 6 months? Brad told you. Brad didn't tell me anything I hadn't already figured out. I pulled into our driveway, the house dark and unwelcoming. I'm not stupid, Diane. I know when I'm being lied to. She grabbed her purse, opened the door. You're being irrational. We'll discuss this when you've calmed down. We won't discuss anything. You'll deny it, I'll pretend to believe you, and we'll go back to our separate lives under the same roof. That's how this works, right? Diane got out, slammed the door hard enough to make the car shake. I watched her storm to the house, fumbling with her keys, disappearing inside. I sat in the car for a long time, engine ticking as it cooled, processing everything that had happened tonight. Tomorrow I'd call Rebecca. Tomorrow the real work would begin. But tonight, I let myself feel the full weight of betrayal, let it settle into my bones like winter cold. 8 years of marriage, 10 years together. All of it built on something that had apparently been eroding for months, while I'd been too busy, too trusting, too stupid to notice. When I finally went inside, Diane had already locked herself in the bedroom. I stood outside the door, listening to her move around, getting ready for bed. I could knock. I could demand we talk this out like adults. I could do the mature, reasonable thing. Instead, I walked to the guest room, the one we kept for visitors who never came, and lay down fully clothed on the bed. The ceiling was water-stained in one corner, a repair we'd been meaning to do for years. Like a lot of things in this house, in this marriage. Meant to do, never got around to, let it slide until it became permanent damage. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. 11 a.m. tomorrow, my office, bring details. I typed back, I'll bring everything I have. Which was basically nothing, just suspicions and hurt feelings, and a wife who'd smiled while another man denigrated me in public. But Rebecca was good at her job. She'd find what I needed, evidence, proof, the ammunition for whatever came next. I closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. My mind kept replaying the evening. James's smug smile, Diane's knowing look, the laughter around the table. The way she'd defended him in the car turned my completely reasonable anger into paranoia. Classic gaslighting, the kind of thing I'd read about but never thought would apply to my life. Somewhere in the house, a door closed. Water ran through pipes. The mundane sounds of domestic life, as if everything was normal, as if the foundation hadn't just cracked wide open. I thought about tomorrow, about sitting across from Rebecca and laying out my suspicions like evidence at trial. I thought about what she might find, texts, emails, hotel receipts, proof of what I already knew in my gut but needed confirmed. I thought about Diane, asleep in our bed, probably not even troubled by tonight's confrontation. And I thought about James Crawford, VP of Corporate Development, with his expensive suit and his wandering hands and his absolute certainty that he could take whatever he wanted. They had no idea what was coming, neither of them. They thought I was the boring husband, the reliable drone, the man who'd stand by and watch his life be dismantled. They'd underestimated me. That was their first mistake. I intended to make sure it was their last. While you're here, hit the hype button. Don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? Rebecca's office was on the 4th floor of a building that had seen better decades. The elevator groaned like it resented carrying people, and the hallway smelled faintly of mildew and old coffee. A frosted glass door at the end read Anderson Investigations in letters that could have used repainting 5 years ago. I knocked. Rebecca's voice called, "It's open." She hadn't changed much since college, still tall and lean, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, eyes that missed nothing. She wore jeans and a blazer over a black t-shirt, the kind of outfit that said she could blend into any situation and you'd never remember seeing her. Perfect for her line of work. "Michael." She stood, shook my hand. Her grip was firm, professional. "Sit. Coffee?" "Please." She poured from a pot that looked like it had been brewing since sunrise, handed me a mug that said, "World's Okayest Detective." Her sense of humor hadn't changed either. "So." She settled back behind her desk, which was organized chaos. Case files, photographs, a laptop surrounded by charging cables. "Diane? How'd you know?" "Because you've been married 8 years and you've never asked for my professional services. Then suddenly you text me after a corporate gala looking like someone kicked your dog. Doesn't take Sherlock Holmes." I sipped the coffee. It was terrible, burned and bitter. "She's having an affair." "You sure?" "As sure as I can be without pictures." "Tell me everything." So I did. The late nights, the distance between us, the way she'd pulled away over the past 6 months, the gala, James Crawford's comments, Diane's smile, the dancing, the casual intimacy that spoke of familiarity beyond professional courtesy. Rebecca took notes, old-school pen and paper. "James Crawford, VP at Halcyon Industries. I know that name." "Yeah. Guy's got a reputation. Serial womanizer, but careful about it. Targets women in positions where speaking up could hurt their careers more than his. Classic predator." She looked up. "Though if Diane's participating willingly, that changes the dynamic." "She is." "You seem certain." "I know my wife." The words tasted bitter. Or I thought I did. Rebecca set down her pen. "Michael, I have to ask. What do you want from this? Confirmation? Evidence for divorce? Just peace of mind?" I stared into my coffee, watching the surface ripple. "I want everything. Phone records, locations, pictures if you can get them. I want to know exactly how long it's been going on and how far it's gone. And then? And then I want to destroy him." Rebecca leaned back in her chair, studying me. Define destroy. Professionally, personally, completely. I want him to lose everything. His job, his reputation, his smug certainty that he can take whatever he wants without consequences. That's ambitious. "Can you help me or not?" She smiled, thin and sharp. "I can help, but this kind of work isn't cheap and it takes time. We're talking surveillance, digital forensics, possibly some less than legal hacking of personal accounts." "How much?" She named a figure that made me wince. "That's the retainer. Could go higher depending on what we find and how deep we need to dig." I thought about my savings, the account I'd kept separate from our joint finances. Money I'd squirreled away over the years, just in case of exactly this. "Do it." "You're sure?" "Once I start digging, there's no going back. If I find evidence, you'll have to decide what to do with it. And if I don't find anything, you'll find something." Rebecca studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay. I'll need everything you have on both of them. Full names, addresses, phone numbers, work schedules, any details about the Nexus project they're working on, social media accounts, email addresses, common hangouts. The more information I have, the faster I can work." I pulled out my phone, started forwarding her information I'd compiled last night during my sleepless hours. Diane's calendar that synced to my phone, James's LinkedIn profile, the Halcyon Industries website, everything I could think of. "I'll also need access to your home network," Rebecca said, typing on her laptop. "If Diane's communicating with him from home, I can set up monitoring software that'll capture texts, emails, even deleted messages." "That's legal?" "In this state? On a shared network in a shared residence? Gray area. But it'll hold up in divorce court if you need it." "Divorce?" The word hung between us like a guillotine blade. I hadn't let myself think that far ahead, but of course that's where this led. You didn't come to a private investigator to save your marriage. You came to end it with maximum advantage. Do whatever you need to do, I said. Rebecca nodded, made more notes. I'll start surveillance today. Crawford's a creature of habit? No idea. I'll find out. Most people are, even when they think they're being careful. He lives in the city? Penthouse in the Pearl District. I looked him up last night. Of course he does. Rebecca rolled her eyes. Typical. These guys all think they're Patrick Bateman. Okay, I'll set up outside his building, track his movements. If they're meeting, I'll get photos. If they're texting, I'll get the messages. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks? This isn't television, Michael. Real surveillance takes time. I need to establish patterns, find vulnerabilities, wait for them to slip up. If they've been careful for 6 months, they won't suddenly get sloppy. I stood, feeling restless. The office was small, claustrophobic. What should I do in the meantime? Nothing. Act normal. Don't confront Diane, don't change your routine, don't give any indication you're suspicious. The best thing you can do is be the oblivious husband they think you are. I'm not good at pretending. Then learn fast, because if they suspect you know something, they'll cover their tracks. Delete messages, meet somewhere new, maybe even cool things off for a while. We need them comfortable and careless. I nodded, understanding the logic even if I hated it. Normal, got it. I'll call you if I find anything urgent. Otherwise, we'll meet again in 2 weeks. Same time, same place. I left her office feeling hollow. 2 weeks of pretending everything was fine. 2 weeks of coming home to Diane, sleeping down the hall from her, watching her get ready for work and wondering if she was dressing for me or for him. 2 weeks of being the fool while Rebecca gathered evidence of my humiliation. The drive home took me through downtown past Halcyon Industries' sleek tower of glass and steel. James was up there somewhere, probably in a corner office with a view, making deals and planning his next conquest. Did he think about me at all? Or was I just an obstacle, easily overcome, barely worth considering? My phone rang. Diane. Where are you? She sounded irritated. Out. Running errands. You left early. We need to talk about last night. Nothing to talk about. You said I was being paranoid. A pause. You were acting strange. I want to make sure we're okay. We're not okay, I thought. We haven't been okay for months. But Rebecca's advice echoed in my head. Act normal. Don't give anything away. We're fine, I said. Just tired. That's all. Good. Relief in her voice. I have a late meeting tonight. Don't wait up. Another strategy session? Exactly. With James? Among others. It's a team meeting, Michael. Don't start. I'm not starting anything, just asking. Well, don't. I'll see you later. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my car in a parking lot, staring at the phone, imagining what that late meeting really meant. Team meeting. Right. Probably a team of 2, in some hotel room, discussing strategy between the sheets. I drove home through streets that felt foreign despite knowing them by heart. Our house sat on a quiet block, modest but comfortable. We'd bought it 6 years ago, proud new homeowners with plans to renovate and expand. We'd done the kitchen 3 years ago, talked about finishing the basement, never got around to it. The yard needed work. The fence needed painting. All the mundane tasks of domestic life we'd let slide while Diane climbed the corporate ladder and I kept my head down at work. Inside, the house was exactly as I'd left it. Diane's coffee cup in the sink, her briefcase by the door where she'd dumped it this morning. Evidence of a shared life that was really 2 separate existences under one roof. I went to the guest room where I'd slept last night, lay down on the bed, stared at the ceiling. This would be my space now, I realized, unless I moved back to the master bedroom and pretended everything was fine. Could I do that? Lie next to her every night, knowing what I knew, pretending I didn't? Rebecca said 2 weeks. I could survive 2 weeks. Then I'd have proof, have evidence, have ammunition. And then, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Network monitor installed remotely. Any digital communication from your home network will now be logged. R.A. Rebecca moved fast. I had to give her that. I spent the rest of the day doing nothing productive. Tried to work on some projects for my job. Gave up after an hour of staring at code that wouldn't compile. Ate lunch that tasted like cardboard. Watched television without processing what was on the screen. At 6 o'clock, I realized I should probably eat something real. The refrigerator mocked me with its emptiness. We'd been ordering takeout more and more lately, neither of us cooking. Another sign I'd ignored. I ordered pizza, ate it standing at the counter, watching the street through the kitchen window. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, walked her ancient beagle. A kid on a skateboard rattled past. Normal life, continuing obliviously while mine imploded. My phone rang again. Work this time, my manager asking about a server issue. I walked him through the diagnostics, solved the problem in 10 minutes, felt a small satisfaction at being competent at something. 8 o'clock. 9. 10. Diane wasn't home. Late meeting, she'd said. I imagined her in James's penthouse, drinks and dim lighting and wandering hands. I imagined her laughing at his jokes, the way she used to laugh at mine before I became furniture. At 11, I heard her car in the driveway. I was in the living room, lights off, laptop open but displaying nothing useful. She came in quietly, probably hoping I'd already gone to bed. I heard her heels on the hardwood, the rustle of her coat. Still up? She appeared in the doorway, backlit by the hall light. Couldn't sleep. Everything okay? Fine. How was your meeting? Productive. We made good progress on the Nexus rollout. She moved into the room, and I caught her scent. Perfume and wine and something else, something masculine. Cologne. His cologne. Glad it went well. Michael. She sat on the arm of the couch, far enough away that we weren't touching. About last night. I'm sorry if James made you uncomfortable. He can be inappropriate sometimes. Sometimes? He doesn't mean anything by it. It's just his personality. His personality is hitting on other men's wives? He wasn't hitting on me. Wasn't he? Diane stood. I'm not doing this. I'm tired. I have an early morning. We can talk more when you're being rational. She left. I heard her climb the stairs, heard the bedroom door close firmly. Not quite a slam, but close. I sat in the dark, letting the quiet settle around me. My phone buzzed. Another text from Rebecca. Surveillance established. Subject departed office at 8 p.m. Met target at the Meridian Hotel bar. Stayed until 10:45 p.m. Photos attached. I opened the attachments with hands that weren't quite steady. 3 photos, time-stamped and clear. James and Diane at a corner table, intimate and close. James's hand on her knee. Diane leaning in, laughing. The third photo showed them leaving together, his hand on the small of her back. The Meridian Hotel, 30 blocks from here, in the opposite direction from her office. No reason for her to be there except to meet him. I forwarded the photos to my email, saved copies in 3 different locations, texted back to Rebecca, got them, keep going. Her response was immediate. Will do, stay strong, stay strong. Right. As if strength had anything to do with watching your marriage evaporate in real time while maintaining a poker face. I went to the guest room, closed the door, lay down in the dark. Tomorrow I'd go to work, pretend to care about servers and networks and deadlines. Tomorrow I'd come home and maintain the fiction that everything was fine. Tomorrow and the day after that, until Rebecca had everything I needed. 2 weeks, she'd said. 2 weeks of being the fool while she built my case. I could do 2 weeks. I'd already done 6 months without knowing it. What was 2 more weeks of slow torture? Monday morning arrived with the kind of gray rain that felt personal. I'd spent the weekend alone in the house, Diane texting occasionally with variations of, "We need to talk," that I ignored. Rebecca checked in twice to confirm the report had been received by all 3 board members. Now it was just waiting. I went to work because the alternative was sitting home dwelling on everything. My team didn't seem to notice anything different. Just another Monday, another week of keeping servers running and solving technical problems that actually had solutions. Around 11, my phone buzzed. Rebecca, board member Linda Martinez just called an emergency meeting. It's happening today at 2. My heart rate kicked up. That's fast. It's a good sign. Means they're taking it seriously. Probably want to investigate before it leaks further. What happens now? We wait. If they act decisively, suspend Crawford, launch a formal investigation, we let them handle it quietly. If they try to bury it, we go loud. I tried to focus on work, but kept watching the clock. 2 p.m. came and went. 3, 4, nothing from Rebecca. At 5:30, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Carter? A woman's voice, professional and cold. Speaking. This is Jennifer Walsh, General Counsel for Halcyon Industries. We need to speak with you regarding a matter that's come to our attention. My stomach dropped. They'd traced the report back to me somehow. What matter? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Would you be available to meet tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at our offices? I'm not sure what this is about. I think you do, Mr. Carter. 9 a.m. I'll have a pass waiting at security. She hung up before I could respond. I immediately called Rebecca. Halcyon's lawyer just called me. Wants to meet tomorrow. Shit. They traced it? Must have. What do I do? You go. But you don't go alone. I'm calling David Brennan. He's a lawyer who specializes in corporate whistleblower cases. He'll meet you there. Make sure they don't intimidate you into backing down. What if they threaten me? Let them try. You've done nothing illegal. Exposing corruption and harassment isn't a crime. What about the hacking? The emails you got? I obtained those through legal means, and even if I hadn't, they can't unring that bell. The evidence exists. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking slightly. This was it. The moment where everything either worked or blew up spectacularly. That night, Diane came by the house. I heard her car in the driveway, heard her key in the lock. Michael? She found me in the living room. We need to talk. Now's not a good time. It's never a good time, but we have to do this. She sat across from me, looking tired. I ended it with James. I told him it's over. Congratulations. Don't be like that. I'm trying to fix things. I'm trying to save our marriage. Did you tell him why you ended it? I told him we got caught. That you know. And what did he say? He was angry, scared. Asked if you were going to do anything. Do anything. Like what? I don't know. Make trouble for him. For us. I almost laughed. Too late for that. Diane's eyes narrowed. What did you do? What I had to do. Michael, what did you do? Made sure he faces consequences. Made sure he can't keep doing this to other women. She went pale. You didn't. I did. Evidence of your affair. Evidence of him giving your company favorable terms because he was sleeping with you. Testimonials from 3 other women he's done this to. It's all documented. All proven. Jesus Christ. Michael, do you realize what you've done? I've exposed a predator who's been getting away with corruption and harassment for years. You've destroyed my career. When this comes out, I'll be ruined. The woman who slept with a partner executive, who accepted favorable terms because of an affair, I'll never work in this industry again. Maybe you should have thought about that before you started sleeping with him. You're punishing me because you're hurt. You're destroying both of us because I made a mistake. A mistake? 8 months of lying isn't a mistake, Diane. It's a choice. Multiple choices made over and over again. She was crying now, angry tears. I told you I'd end it. I told you we could fix this, but you couldn't just let it go, could you? You had to get revenge, had to make everyone suffer because you're suffering. I'm making one person suffer. James Crawford, you're just collateral damage. Collateral damage? I'm your wife. You stopped being my wife the first time you slept with him. Diane stood, shaking with fury. Fine. You want to destroy everything? Go ahead. But don't act like you're the noble one here. You're just as vindictive and petty as anyone else. Maybe, but at least I'm honest about it. She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I sat in the silence, feeling nothing. She was right, in a way. I was being vindictive. But after months of lies and betrayal, vindictive felt justified. The next morning, I met David Brennan outside Halcyon's building. He was in his 50s, gray hair and sharp eyes, wearing a suit that cost more than my car. Michael Carter? That's me. David Brennan. I've reviewed the documentation your investigator provided. It's solid. You're in a good position here. It doesn't feel like a good position. That's because you're worried. Don't be. You've exposed legitimate wrongdoing. They can bluster and threaten, but at the end of the day, you hold the cards. We went through security, took the elevator to the 42nd floor. Jennifer Walsh met us in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She was in her 40s, blonde hair pulled back severely, expression giving away nothing. Mr. Carter, Mr. Brennan. She shook our hands. Please sit. 2 other people were already in the room. A man in his 60s I recognized as one of the board members from my research, and a younger woman who was probably another lawyer. Let's get straight to the point, Walsh said once we were seated. We've received a detailed report alleging serious misconduct by James Crawford. The report includes your wife's name extensively. We need to understand your involvement. My client has exposed a pattern of corruption and harassment, Brennan said smoothly. Information that Halcyon should be grateful to have. We are conducting an investigation, but we need to know if Mr. Carter obtained any of this information illegally. Everything in that report was obtained legally, I said. The emails between Mr. Crawford and your wife. How did you access those? Through a private investigator operating within legal boundaries. Your wife's personal emails? Communications made through company servers during business hours, not protected by privacy laws. Walsh exchanged a look with her colleagues. Mr. Carter, I want to be clear. If you're attempting to blackmail or extort, he's doing neither, Brennan cut in. He's provided evidence of wrongdoing. What you do with that evidence is your decision. The older man, the board member, spoke for the first time. The allegations in the report are serious. If true, they represent significant liability for Halcyon. We're taking them very seriously. Good, I said. However, Walsh continued, we're concerned about your motivations. This appears to be a personal vendetta driven by marital issues. My motivations don't change the facts. James Crawford has been having affairs with multiple women at partner companies while giving those companies favorable contract terms. That's corruption, and he's been doing it for years while your company looked the other way. That's a serious accusation, the younger lawyer said. It's a documented pattern. 3 women have given testimony. Sarah Markham even filed a formal complaint years ago that your company buried. The room went silent. Walsh's expression flickered, the first crack in her professional mask. We'll need to interview these women, she said finally. They're willing to talk, but they want legal protection first. We can arrange that. The board member leaned forward. Mr. Carter, I want to assure you that Halcyon takes ethics seriously. If James Crawford has been engaging in the behavior you've alleged, he will face consequences, but we need time to investigate properly. How much time? 2 weeks, maybe 3. These things take time. I looked at Brennan. He gave a small nod. 2 weeks, I said. But if nothing happens, this goes public. Industry publications, social media, everywhere. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man James Crawford is and how Halcyon protected him. That's your right, the board member said, though I'd urge you to let us handle this internally first. The meeting ended with handshakes and professional courtesies, but as we left the building, Brennan gave me a satisfied smile. That went well. Did it? They're taking it seriously. That board member looked genuinely concerned. My guess is Crawford is suspended by the end of the week. And if he's not, then we go public. But I don't think it'll come to that. They know this could destroy them if it leaks. Better to handle it quietly, fire Crawford, settle with the victims, and move on. He was right. 3 days later, Rebecca called with news. Crawford's been suspended pending investigation. It's not public yet, but my sources say he's been told not to come to the office. Is that enough? It's a start. If the investigation confirms everything, and it will, he'll be terminated. Might even face criminal charges if they find enough evidence of corruption. What about the women? Sarah, Monica, Angela? Halcyon's reaching out, offering settlements in exchange for cooperation with the investigation. They're getting legal protection, compensation, and the satisfaction of finally being heard. It was happening. Everything I'd planned, everything I'd worked for. James Crawford's career was crumbling. His reputation would be destroyed. The women he'd hurt would get justice. So why didn't I feel better? You okay? Rebecca asked. I don't know. This is what I wanted. But now that it's happening, revenge is never as satisfying as you think it'll be, because it doesn't undo the hurt, doesn't fix what was broken. Then what was the point? Justice. And making sure he can't hurt anyone else. That's worth something. After she hung up, I sat in my car outside work, watching people come and go. Normal people with normal lives, untouched by betrayal and revenge and the complex ugliness of it all. My phone buzzed. Diane. I heard about James. This is really happening? Yes. I'm going to lose my job. Maybe, or